Okay, well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, as the case may be. This is Arthur Roggett with Verdantis. Thanks for taking a minute or two to break some time loose this afternoon. We've given folks a couple extra minutes to log in. We had some last-minute stragglers. Today's webinar will be about 40 minutes, including questions and answers, so we should still sort of end up at 45 minutes after the hour. My name's Arthur Roggett, and I trust everyone can see me as well as, or at least see my PowerPoint and hear my voice. So a little bit of background, very little. My name's Arthur Roggett. As I mentioned, I'm one of the founders of Verdantis. I've been in and around the master data space, master data quality, master data improvement, as well as master data between organizations with business-to-business middleware for the better part of about 20 years. I'm a huge fan of applied technology, meaning technology applied to business challenges. Verdantis, which is very much focused for the last dozen or so years in a material and product master data governance, data quality improvement, master data management overall, with a very strong focus on process industries that include utilities, both electrical as well as natural gas and water, as well as oil, gas, energy, mining, and the like. We are sort of the de facto experts in parts and material categorization as well as attribution, which means the technical attributes associated with those things that an organization may buy. Now, as the title of today's webinar may indicate, this is Material Master Data Management for Utilities. Our experience, a common trend across utilities, and most of our work has been, as you can see, electrical utilities, both power generation as well as T&D, transmission and distribution, has been that they all have a very large number, proportionately, of maintenance, repair, and operation parts. So these are the spares that are around power gen, as well as sort of heavy central distribution and transmission. The challenge here is that with such a high number of assets, oftentimes spread across multiple systems, some of our heritage clients would have a single EAM instance per power gen facility or per major T&D hub. Others may have consolidated or regionally. Others have simply grown through acquisition or absorption. Others have done just the opposite. They spun off of sort of transmission from generation. The challenge basically is lots of data from different places in different states. I don't mean different states like provinces, states. I mean different states of quality. So having a large number of spares disparately spread out creates a challenge when it comes to finding parts. And these are finding parts that you need to maintain, to repair, and to operate. And when someone has problem finding parts, they order extras. They create insurance or black stock spares. Now, granted, material is absolutely critical to ensure continuous supply, whether that's supply of electricity, of natural gas, or municipal water. And MDM's capability to provide consistent, accurate inventory information enables those utilities to efficiently manage the storing, the financing, the handling, the accounting of the operational support inventory. Now, if we continue along these lines, in terms of the importance of material master data management for utilities, why are we talking about MDM as a discipline? Master data management, master data quality improvement, master data harmonization, master data governance. It's all about being able to support changing technology paradigms. And this is both in terms of changing the method of power generation or power delivery, right? The increase in natural gas over coal, switch to nuclear, coming back from nuclear, switch to using waste, right? Waste energy. We have a couple of clients in that space. But also the core platforms within a utility and what they use for managing assets, whether it's an EAM, an enterprise asset management platform, whether it's an ERP, whether you're returning from an ERP back to an EAM. Certainly trends within the industry, and you guys all know what's going on. Ultimately, though, there's also pressure to manage costs. Now, many of you are not in a competitive market. I don't want to say that it's monopolistic pricing, but the reason for cost management is that cost management also helps you manage your reserves. And the cash reserves are related to outage protection. So if you can tighten up and run leaner, it also reduces the reserves that you need to hold. And this is absolutely key. So providing accurate, consistent inventory and operational data through master data management, which reduces the number of, I'll say, duplicate spares, extraneous items, corrupt bill of materials. You now have the confidence to run leaner, worry less about stockouts, and effectively improve your financial performance. Certainly, operational performance is a requirement for all of us, right? Continuous power generation is the requirement. And that streamlined operation in an agile environment with a lean inventory absolutely requires the use of material master data management. Missing technical information or technical attributes reduces the value of that and increases the amount of time to search, which also then increases mean time to repair and increases overall maintenance and repair and overhaul cycles. As I mentioned before, showing the importance of having multiple locations, multiple systems, that requires a level of standardization. Increasingly, we are all within the utility industry realizing the value of being able to centralize our own distribution center for spares. And if we can come up with a common way to view and name and refer to our inventory, it gives us the ability to handle last-minute changes, last-minute requests, and to quickly and optimally reallocate resources across our fleet. So why should you really look at leveraging a Material MDM initiative? And more importantly, when? So if we start off by saying, why should electric utility companies consider Material MDM? And this is also true for those natural gas distribution firms, as well as municipal water for those larger facilities, is that you may have a competitive market. Now, granted, competitive electrical is all about the marketing, but it's driving costs down. Right? The new entrants are basically leveraging lower cost of operations for their front office to offer discounted rates. As a regulated or non-regulated, but in sort of incumbent utility, the ability to streamline that back-end operation to improve your performance, whether it be for actual shareholders or just to satisfy the requirement of the regulatory concerns, this gives you more to invest in key core customer relations activities, those front office opportunities that increase customer loyalty. From an operational perspective, the need for consistent data across EAMs is key. Right, so whether it's enterprise asset or enterprise resource planning platforms, or even your PMO, plant maintenance and operations centers, the ability to spread and share data across gives you the economy of scale that you seek. Just to maybe run through a scenario for one of our customers. And of course, you guys are all a cagey bunch. You may share information with each other, but you don't like your vendors to share information about you to the public. So do reach out to us after today's session if you're looking for direct connections and reference calls and the like. But one of our large utility companies had a very specific requirement to create a single source of authoritative truth for all of their materials. And the rationale for this was one of a regulatory change that required a certain kinds of accounting between their regulated and non-regulated business, nuclear and non, basically. They had two distinct requirements, and this I do find common across almost all of our customers in the electric utility space. One, the ability to perform historic data cleansing. All right, it's very common, and most of you have or are going to or in the process of combining data from individual plants and operational business units into a common data store. This is the first step in data management. This historic data cleansing is about the standardization and the normalization and then the cleansing or enrichment of your material and part data. We talk about standardization. This is the applying a category or a classification code to every item across all of your item masters or part master or material masters. The second step is to now take this knowledge of what category an item is and with its part number or its manufacturer information, enrich what you know about that item. So that instead of just a nameless part number with the manufacturer name, you have technical characteristics or attributes. This enables you to start to deduplicate, whether it's actual inventory removal or simply understand what kind of aggregate demand you may be able to leverage in the market. Or on the additional scenario, where you can borrow or extend parts from in case of high demand or urgent maintenance requirement. This historical cleansing is the thing that allows you to normalize your data across all of your operations. Now, once this data has been cleansed, and by the way, a great time to cleanse this is right before you implement a new version or a rollout of your EAM or your ERP, because you can then implement data governance, ongoing data control, and data stewardship over new items being created, with the added advantage of, in that data governance mode, being able to deploy an enterprise-wide, utility-wide, or division or operational business unit-wide search capability that leverages the tribal knowledge of your people today with the instant gratification requirement of the millennials joining your team as your senior people retire out. Every one of you face that exact challenge today. I know that. I've seen it. And when we talk about implementations, we can talk about how to leverage some of those senior knowledgeable resources to provide the kind of background and legacy knowledge that the new generation is going to need going forward. Now, we talk about MRO, maintenance, repair, and operations. And why do we do that? I mean, why do we consider that important? I mean, really, indirect material management is a missed opportunity for many utilities. Yes, I understand pricing is something that you go against the regulatory board or the BPU, whomever has to approve. And that is your number one way to sort of gain profit share. But the other is to improve operations. And in those environments where you are sort of capped, this gives you flexibility. It also builds the coffers up, it builds up a stronger war chest, and gives you the ability to reinvest. I mean, this is almost CFO level stuff. And yet it's easily ignored. Why? Because as a percentage of your overall spend, versus buying off the grid or buying gas or buying coal, yeah, it's not a huge percentage, but it's easy money. And there's a lot of waste. And there's some leakage happening out at the transmission distribution side. We want to help you get your arms around it. So savings from indirect material has generally been ignored, yet for many commodities or categories within the indirect MRO space, maintenance, repair, and operations, you might be able to save 15 to 18% with a comprehensive data management strategy that supports the reduction of maverick spend or off contract. Now, that's part of it. And, money's money. A million here, a million there. Pretty soon you're talking about real dollars. But it's not just about cost. Better indirect material management directly affects the reliability of your operations. Avoiding stockouts, having what you need for repair, for normal maintenance cycles, leads to overall better efficiency, reduce breakdown, and reduce outage. All of which, of course, increases customer satisfaction and limits those nasty letters to the BPU. If we look at maybe a couple of specific operational ways that Material MDM can impact the utility industry, Operational efficiency is pretty clean. If I look at the Aberdeen Research from a year or two back, what they found was that operational cost improvement, according to Aberdeen, and an interview of I think, a couple of dozen utility companies, showed a 17% gain or reduction in the case of operational costs. They also found anecdotally that Material MDM helped reduce risk, prevent disruptions, and increased overall productivity, and that is financial productivity, by the way. And lastly, improved data quality, improved informed decision-making across the organization, both at the end user or edge of the organization, as well as at the management level. Similarly, what Aberdeen found was from a profitability perspective, and this was over a course of 24 months, profitability increased by 13% for those utilities that were utilizing material master data management in conjunction with their EAM. What you do with that money, of course, is up to you. Personally, I like the vacation fund idea, but in all honesty, this is redirection of profits towards improving the customer experience, improving the service experience, or perhaps even funding additional or parallel business venture. Two other key areas are the reduction of waste, which is just a good thing for this earth, right? So by lowering asset carrying costs and lowering actual inventory, providing a more streamlined operation reduces generally in excess and waste, not the least of which is excess inventory or black stock that is sitting in storage yards throughout the organization. Let's get it out of there. Let's get it into the recycling process. Of course, operationally, everyone is looking for reduced outage, increased availability, and increased productivity. By having deduplicated, standardized, normalized, and technically attributed material, your team will be able to search across organizations, business units, and depending on how you deploy, we do have customers who have extended their view of their material management environment to their 3PL and 4PL providers for extended or basically off-property inventory, so that you have the ability to search across organizations, find material quickly, and reduce any kind of maintenance downtime significantly. Let's step through one of our client scenarios. This is a fairly large utility in the Southeast. They were running through a 3-year ERP consolidation process. The consolidation process had 3 key goals or 3 tasks. First was to unify the company's accounting structure. Second was to update and upgrade all businesses across the organization, both regulated and non, to a single version of SAP. Lastly, upgrade all individual nuclear or regulated division into a single instance of an EAM platform for every aspect of its business to streamline that operation. So SAP for financials, EAM for operations for nuclear, and can create a single master data management repository across both sides. What did Verdantis do to help the organization make this jump? Well, scope-wise, we had about 600,000 material master records. For that, our tool set was used to interrogate all existing item catalogs, categorize, standardize each individual item, disassemble the unstructured item descriptions, extract, normalize, and structure technical attributes for all 600,000 items, generate clean descriptions that were loaded back into both the EAM and the ERP, as well as create an attribute value map that was now searchable by anybody at the end user side or at the edge of the utility organization. The results of this effort was a reduction in inventory holding costs, and a reduction in duplicate or safety stock orders. Better data governance led to a more useful search function, which reduced the amount of time to find the right material. Again, reduced actual expenditure and effectively saved both time and money in a tangible business way. These detailed catalog descriptions with technical detail and technical specifications provided information that was better for both operations people in determining how and where items can be deployed, but just as useful for the procurement team in how these items could be sourced and purchased. Ultimately, the elimination of item duplication by interrogating the existing material master and proposing reuse of existing material ensured both long-term reliability and accuracy of the inventory information and provided a sustainable roadmap for savings for the utility. Now, it always makes sense to evaluate your material master project capabilities when you are deploying or blueprinting in EAM or an ERP. Now, why does that make sense, right? Why not do it afterwards? Well, it really comes down to a matter of budget. If you're implementing a new EAM, or you're rolling out a major section, or you're implementing a new ERP, the IT department's already sort of queued up a lot of money to do a very small incremental add that you can embrace a separate and distinct material master data management, material master data quality improvement, or material master data governance initiative means that with very incremental cost and the reuse of existing resources assigned to your EAM process, you can increase the return on investment of your EAM or ERP deployment. The value proposition really hits both the during EAM implementation as well as post-EAM implementation. Let's take a look at some of these. So during the EAM implementation, there are two real factors that contribute in a monetary way to getting things done. Having clean data at the get-go, at the beginning, enables a couple of very straightforward things. First, you can use a partner who has both deep domain expertise and automated tools, a company like Verdantis, of course, to help you improve your existing or fill in incomplete or correct bad data at the onset. And by doing this, you'll have both a quicker, cleaner implementation of your EAM or ERP for two reasons. One, your testing cycle will actually go faster, and I would say a reduction of about 30 to 40% faster. And secondly, user adoption will be higher because they'll be able to trust the information. I cannot tell you how many of our customers, utility and non alike, have said halfway through an implementation, hey, this report doesn't true up. You know what? Your report never trued up. Now you've got accurate data. You can see what the real numbers are. This becomes a wonderful opportunity to improve process. But from a cost reduction perspective, the net investment for MMDM, Material Master Data Management, during an EAM implementation returns savings back in spades when you look at the reduced cost of testing. Now, once the EAM blueprint is complete and ERP implementation is complete, what do we see in terms of value drivers or cost drivers? One is that reduction in extra inventory or insurance inventory buys or just black stock purchases. That safety net goes away once the organization starts to appreciate the accuracy and consistency of the materials that they have. Right. Second is the actual inventory rationalization. As you combine this data, you start to see similarities and realize that in the same yard in two different locations, you've got the same thing. Described differently, named differently, bought by two different people 2 years apart, but these are durable assets. Why are we continuing to buy stuff we already have? And with ongoing data governance, we start seeing this as an ongoing efficiency. It's not uncommon that we will see 10 to 15% of the initial data scrub value coming back year after year after year in ongoing financial efficiencies. So it's one thing to hear ours, our perspective and what we've seen with our, dozen or so utility companies, amongst the 100 or so, global 1,000 companies that we do business with. If we go to an objective source, let's take somebody like Aberdeen Research. What they found was by integrating MDM with an ERP EAM rollout, there was a net gain across some very core business areas. And this, by the way, will help those of you who are trying to build a business case. Improvement in complete and on-time deliveries of supply chain items increases by 4% with MDM over a non-MDM environment, right, from 14 to 18%. Inventory accuracy increases by 5%, from 91% to 96%. And inventory turns jumps by 10%, from 33 to 43. Additional ROI numbers, things that oftentimes will, make a CFO's day. Reduction in operational cost, a 3% gain for those organizations that adopt MDM with their ERP or EAM go live, right, from 14 to 17. A 4% reduction in costs from an administrative cost perspective. A 3% gain in schedule compliance. A slight change in year-over-year time to decision. But the one that sort of hits me is a 4% gain over 2 years in profitability. So with that, I'd like to open the floor to questions. And let's see what we have coming in. Let me see here. Okie doke. I like this. We're increasing the use of natural gas as fuel and might move to newer technologies. I'm not sure what kind of new technologies would be after that. Maybe nuclear, who knows? Will your MDM solution be able to adapt as we pivot? If we look at how our particular solution set works, the data cleansing of historical data, harmonized in this case, has been trained because it is AI-based. It learns by example. So in the utility space alone, we've done work with companies, both utilities in both in the U.S. And in Western Europe. Almost all had their, say, power gen and maybe 30% transmission and distribution. Accordingly, the power gen assets, coal, gas, hydro, wind, nuclear, and also waste to energy. So from a major manufacturer database or categories and attributes, our core framework has already been well sort of trained or familiar with most power generation enabled systems from every major manufacturer framework. So pretty much across your fleet, whether it's natural gas fired or coal or waste or nuclear, even hydro and wind. We've already got the base patterns within our software to categorize and then to extract technical attributes across the band. So certainly anywhere that you go, no matter what you are going to be using or from whom you're going to be buying it, I'd say we've got pretty good coverage. One of the things we have seen for some of our US customers recently has been an increased use of European manufacturers for air scrubbers, for instance. These are just things that happen because of tighter controls. They've got, the Europeans have tighter control in their environmental issues, and the reuse of that data for many of our customers thought it'd be a problem here in the U.S. We've already done a fair amount in that space, so for us it was a rather smooth sail, so easy enough to do. Related question: can the same MDM solution be used for different types of plants, or do we need different instances? It's interesting. The value of master data management, specifically around material, is that the broader you go, the wider you go across not just power generation, but also transmission distribution, is that you're looking to find areas of overlap, especially for those of you who may have effectively grown or been acquired, or you're representing a multi-entity kind of organization. So it's being deployed out in the Northeast versus the Midwest. Can you reuse assets between coal and gas? Maybe not. Maybe they're just too far away. Are there some common parts between those facilities? Absolutely. Can you share inventory? Can you run a common distribution center? In some cases, yes. In those cases where you can't, you can still take advantage of purchasing synergies. Right? In the hands of a good sourcing team, you can look at some serious reduction just by volume level agreement modifications, right? Or national contracts for spare parts. And the question itself was specific to coal and gas. I've also had people in the past ask, coal versus nuclear. There's a challenge with nuclear generation, which is the paper trail behind it. One of the things that we've gotten really good at, just because of our customer base, is we understand that a part is not always a part. One of our earlier clients had a small challenge, and maybe some of you guys have faced a similar, where the folks from the conventional side were, I don't say pilfering, but borrowing from the regulated side for some very similar parts. So I'm sure you guys have been down this path, but something with a cert level may be 5, 10, even 15 times as expensive as an item without a cert. So instead of reaching for a $10 part, somebody's reached for a $150 part, and that adds up pretty quickly. So one of the things that we do from a data management and deduplication perspective is for those assets that are deployed on the regulated side. We are smart enough to track as a technical attribute their cert or cert level, and that provides a level of uniqueness, which also gives you insight for compliance and reporting, as well as for your supply chain, and can also be used as a blocker to keep storeroom fights down to a minimum. Probably the last question, just because we're running out of time. There's a lot of pressure for cutting costs. In such a scenario, I like this. The full question was, what you're presenting sounds great, but I have no budget. There's a lot of pressure for us to continue to cut costs. How can we move forward? This gets down to a business case. You saw a couple of places where there were some monetized values. If we look at a 4% over 2-year profit gain, or an increased visibility in the inventory, these are things that have a direct and material change on how an operation runs. For every one of our existing customers, we needed to help them, either directly or indirectly, build out a business case. Now, I don't doubt that each of you have direct exposure into your numbers faster and better than we would. But one thing that we are happy to share is what metrics and what measures our other customers have used to justify the addition of an MDM, or specifically an MMDM, Material Master Data Management Initiative, either as part of an EAM or ERP rollout, or as a separate project altogether. Likewise, we've got customers who are more than happy to chat with you as references and share their best experiences. As there are, no other questions, I'm going to let us all, get another 4 or 5 minutes back to our afternoon. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone. So again, this is Arthur Raguet with Verdantis. Thank you very much for attending today's webinar.